I wanted to make a video on something that's actually important, so here we are. I'm going to talk about all of the Colossi that I think I could climb in Shadow of the Colossus. You might be wondering, Raz, what are your qualifications? Why would we believe that you could climb something? And that's fair. You don't know what I look like. You don't know my full history. What I can say is I've bouldered a bunch, especially a while back, not so much recently, but I've bouldered a bunch in the past. And also you can trust me. You can just trust me. Now I do want to set some ground rules. I'm just talking about climbing a Colossus. I'm not talking about killing a Colossus. I wouldn't do that. I believe in the natural order of things. And B, I probably couldn't. That's not my skill set. I do think I have some skills in climbing, but killing big things with a sword, I don't. I will say for this, it's more of, could I get to what's considered the top or the front of a Colossus? Not even necessarily the weak points, just could I get to what's largely considered the top or the front? So not just on it, especially for those lower profile long ones. I wouldn't just say on it. I'd say like to the head. That's roughly what we're talking about here. Now, if I would have to do some of the things that Wander has to do, that's part of it. So I'll take those skills into consideration, even if it's not just climbing. It's also worth noting that as this video is talking about which Colossi I could climb and kind of showing off how to climb them, it will show solutions of how to climb them. So if you haven't played the game, play the game, probably. It's good. So without further ado, we've got the first Colossus, which you're like, oh yeah, this is a big guy, big slow steps. No way, Raz. But of course, I could definitely do it. I think one thing I do want to say too is I don't have to follow all the video game rules. If something looks climbable, even if it's not climbable by Wander, I could do it. And there's so many little handholds that an actual person could get into where Wander can only grab the big ledges. I could do more. But also, I think I could probably, again, I wouldn't kill the Colossus because I'm not that kind of guy, but I could probably stab it enough in the leg to knock it over here. But once you get past that first move, even that first move isn't that hard because, again, those rocks have so much to grab onto. Once you get past that first move, it's a lot of fur, it's a lot of these big platforms and handholds that are easy enough to give you some leverage by pushing up against the Colossus. Frankly, once you get past that first part, it's pretty much just climbing a ladder. You might see me struggle with the gameplay footage here, but I wouldn't struggle in real life. He's not moving that much. He's not shaking that much. Once you're on him, he's just kind of confused as to what's going on. So it's just really about pulling yourself up, keeping your feet pressed up against the Colossus, and getting to the top. That's an easy one. And so that brings us to the second Colossus. Now this one has a bit of a hard move, as to get him to fall over, you have to shoot his foot with bow and arrow. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I almost bought a bow and arrow and a target to practice it, to prove it, but then I was like, I'm not going to do that. That's a lot of work. But I've hit a target before from like 30 feet away, so I think I could do that here. And then, again, similar to the first one, once you're on, it's pretty much just free climbing. It's pretty much just a ladder. There's probably some nice knots in there for your feet, and it's not hard. It would be a bit hard, I guess, going across here. That would definitely be the hardest part. It'd be a little tiring, but you hold on tight with your hands on the fur, use your legs to create some leverage. Okay, stop shaking. Stop shaking. Okay, but in real life, I would have already been across it. I wouldn't have been fluffing about with the gameplay there. You just keep your feet pressed, your hands on, and easy enough. Also, I think these little scales here would be climbable in real life. You just look, there's definitely spots for your finger. This one would be harder than the first one. Admittedly, this one would be harder than the first one, but it's still a climb. Now we get to the third one, and I know what you're thinking. This guy's massive. Raz, come on. There's no chance. But look, I'm being honest. Once you get on this sword thing, I mean, normally I was trying to do the flip thing here where he flips you up in the air and you land on him. It's like a glitch. I couldn't pull it off. But normally you just run up this thing. It's just a slight angle hill, not that hard. Then a ladder climb up the arm where you have these pretty great platforms to help stabilize you and help give you some footholds to push you up further. And then once you get to the back of the arm, it's really another slanted climb. This is not hard. You could almost walk up it at this point. It's safer to not, but you could almost walk up it at this point. And even here, you get all these handholds just to the right that I wasn't using in the game, but you could use. It'd be an easy climb. Yeah, I understand this one's tall. And like, realistically, I wouldn't choose to climb this. But could I? Yes, I think I could. And look, I know what some of you are thinking right now. Raz, you have just said you could climb 3 for 3 of these things at one of the tallest ones. You're just going to say you can climb every single one. And I promise you, that's not what this video is. I'm not just saying I can climb every single Colossus in the game. I'm taking this seriously. I'm thinking this through. With that said, the 4th Colossus, easy. This would be so incredibly easy. It's one jump, and then it's a small ladder. It's 2 easy movements, and then it's just a slanted climb where you could almost walk up it, and then that gets you to the top. Look, even the doubters, you have to believe me on this one. You know this one wouldn't be that hard. I wouldn't even need to do the stabbing thing that Wander does here. I could climb this little thing. There's no video game holds on this, but a real person could easily wedge their hands in there and get up on top of the head. Okay, next up, we have the 5th Colossus. And look, this is where I fail. This is it. This is one that I could not do for a few different reasons. The first is I probably couldn't even get its attention, right? I would not be able to hit an arrow shot or get an arrow close enough to even bother it. But of course, the thing that would actually be the problem is this first move. There's just no way. There's just no way I would be able to grab hold of it moving that fast. I don't know how quick it's going, 50 miles an hour. I would get murdered. I would be splatted. I'd be done. I could not jump onto it. And also, once I was on it, there's just no way I would be able to hold on with the wings flapping. This one is unrealistic. This one is impossible. It would not happen. So there, look, I'm reasonable. I would not be able to climb that one. Then we got I think this is the 6th Colossus. This is another one I do actually feel a little worried about. This is the Beard Colossus, the best way to climb him because his feet are pretty sheer. There's not a good handhold to grab onto and climb on, and he's moving his legs a lot. The best way to get on him is by jumping on his beard. And in some ways, this seems kind of easy. But when you think about the mechanisms of how to climb a Colossus or how to climb something like this, it's right. You have your hands on the fur, which is what is creating this like essentially way to pull back while you push your feet into the body, right? And that creates leverage to keep you on the Colossus. However, when you're on the beard, there's probably not that pressure unless there's like bone all the way through the beard. I haven't thought of that. I guess I don't know fully how this Colossus is formed, but I assume it's just a beard hanging down. So I think that what might be hard there is there wouldn't be enough pressure that I could put on with my feet to easily get up. Now, the beard is pretty gnarly. There seemed like there could be a bunch of knots that I could maybe get my feet in. So this one would be hard, but yeah, no, I could do it. I could definitely climb this one. And that brings us to the 7th Colossus, which I think is another fail for me for a handful of different reasons. One is I'd be dealing with how wet everything is. I think it would be really hard to get a good grip on the fur with being pulled through the water, with it just being wet in general. For this, I think that the way for it to count as climbing it would be to get to the front of it, and I think that would be really hard. Just even swimming to it quick enough as fast as this thing moves. And also the electricity of it all. I think I'd probably get electrocuted because I think electricity in water probably also works different than it does in this video game where it's very contained. I assume that it would probably fuck me up from further out. So I think this is a no. This one is a pretty solid no. I would not be able to climb to the front of this Colossus, especially when it's moving so fast underwater and you're getting pulled. No. Well, actually, I did go water tubing a bunch as a kid, and I was pretty good at staying on, even when getting whipped around. Now I'm going to stick with my gut. That one's a no. But now we have this next one, and I'm a little mixed on it. If we're talking about getting to the weak point, I think it would be hard because you have to make these pretty precise shots from far away on its legs. And I just don't know that I'd be able to get close enough, right? Where the 2nd Colossus, you're pretty close. So making that shot wouldn't be that wild. But here, the angles are a little worse. You're actively being shot at. So I think it'd be hard for me to knock him down to get him on his belly. With that said, if we're just talking about getting to the top of him, yes, he's armored, so I wouldn't be able to get to his weak point. But he's so low profile, and his armor would be great handholds in real life. So I think this is actually a definite climb. Again, not a defeat. We're not talking about defeating the Colossus. We're talking about climbing them. So this is a definite climb. Pretty easy, in fact. Then we move on to the next one, which is what I consider another free climb. All you need to do is kind of get him on his side, and then it is just another ladder climb up. It definitely would be a tiring climb, but it's just as easy as any other where you're just pushing your feet hard and pulling back with your hands, and then you get to this nice spot with the ladder. Now, it would have to be quick because this guy turns, and if you don't match the turn quick enough, you'll definitely get messed up. But this is a pretty straight climb. All you need to do is get him to pretty much knock himself over. So this one's free. This one's another free one. And I imagine everyone would agree with me on that. I've lost track of which Colossus we're on number-wise, but this is the next one, and it's another no. Now, again, it's a low-profile one, so if we're talking about it in its stunned form, yeah, I could climb it. Truthfully, another freebie, another very easy one. Now, the hard part about this one is to get it in that form, you have to shoot it in the eye while it's chasing you and you're on the back of a horse. And look, I'm just not making that shot. There's just no possible chance that I make that shot. And I think that's an important part to include in this determination. Again, once it's crashed into the wall, it is just walking up a slope. But getting it to do that, I just wouldn't be able to. So I'm going to count this one as a no, but I do kind of actually think I could climb it, but I think it counts as a no. But this next one is another freebie. It's a small little guy, so that wouldn't be hard, and all you really need to do is scare it and back it up with fire. I can hold a torch, and he's pretty small, so, I mean, what are we even talking about here? This one's just free. It is easy. It doesn't even seem fair to the Colossus. Now, if the question is, could I stay on it? No, of course not. I've seen what bull riding is like. I could not ride a bull. I would die in a half a second. But the question is, could I get to the top of it? And yes, definitely. Even though this next one is much bigger, it is another freebie. You just swim behind it and climb up its back. This isn't hard. It's a slope. There are also a lot of grooves in that slope that you can rest on, get your hands in and hold on to, even if he's shaking. This is just easy. This is not hard at all. The vast majority of people could do this one without any problem. The vast majority of people could do this one. Maybe with some problem, but this one is not hard. Going from an easy one to a hard one, we do have this flying Colossus, which I think is hard for a handful of reasons. One is to get it to a spot where you can't even jump on it. You have to land some arrow shots. I think it would be really hard. These are long shots at a moving target. What I will say on it is, unlike the other one that's chasing you, this one's not chasing you. This is just floating around. It might take me a really long time to hit it. But in a world where I have unlimited arrows and unlimited time, I think I do hit it. Now, the hard part, of course, would be getting onto these wings, because it's moving kind of fast. It's not moving that fast, I guess. But you do have to jump on it from a horse, which I definitely could not jump off a horse onto it. But I guess it was moving really slow there. And this is just a ladder climb. Okay, no, I could do this one. Yeah, I could definitely do this one. This one is actually not that hard. I think it might take a long time, but you just have to bring it down. It was moving so slow, so if I just walk in front of it, it's like I could jump onto a slow-moving train, right? People do that. That's the thing people do, or did. People probably still do. So it's like jumping on a slow-moving train and then climbing a ladder and then jumping on its back. Yeah. Yeah, that's a climb. I can do this. Next one, we got another low-profile guy, and yeah, it's just the same as that other one. It's a fairly easy climb. Now, if we're talking about having to do all the things you need to do to get the armor off to kill it, no, I could not do all those maneuvers. Some of those take wild jumps through the level, jumping backwards, that I could not do. I could not do the series of events to get its armor to fall off. Now, I definitely could climb on it while it's in its armored form. Yeah, that's just not hard. It's low down. Now, you'd get bucked off. I would get tossed around and probably stomped afterwards. But if we're just talking about the climbing on it, yeah, I could do that. This next one is this tall guy, and this one actually, you don't actually have to do much climbing because it's really just jumping. So the question is, could I make the jump from the bridge to his head? Because everything else is easy. Like all the platforming around is not that hard to do. You just run around and maybe have to pull up on a few things, but it's not hard. The hard part is making this jump to the top of his head. So could I do that? And obviously it's easy to say, yeah, I could just jump on it. Now, I think the hard part is momentum, right? You hit it. Are you just there? Or do you get shocked because you hit it and you bounce off? Or do you try to do a roll and fall? So the question is, could I stick the landing on the jump? And I think it'd be really hard. I think this would be a really challenging thing realistically because it's a small spot to jump onto. But yeah, I definitely could do it. I think I could do this one. I think I could do this one. I have the confidence to say this would be a climb. And that brings us to the last Colossus, this big guy who shoots lasers at you. And I actually think that this one is not as hard as it may seem based on its size, because a lot of the climb up is just ladder climbs, essentially. It's pretty close to just climbing a ladder, and I can climb a ladder. Now, what does make this way more difficult is that it's raining. So, of course, the rain would play a massive factor in making things more slippery, which definitely would lower my confidence. I still think that a lot of these more basic things, especially when you're right below him, with enough time, you'd be able to do it. And also, it's not like any of these climbs don't have quick spots to fall back to. Most of them, at most, you're climbing up 8 feet at a time, and then you can go back to the platform. So with enough time, even in the rain, I think I could do it. Now, what gets hard is there's a spot by the small of his back where you like stab him and then he brings his hand around. And looking at it, it really doesn't seem, even outside of the game rules, and we're just talking about real rules of things I could climb, it doesn't seem like it'd be easy to climb his torso stuff. That seems pretty impossible to find a good route through that. There definitely are indentations in that armor, like the ornate aspects of it. You could definitely crimp some of those things. It's hard because I think with the moving aspect of it and the rain, it'd just be too hard. Maybe if it wasn't raining. I think that would be a fall though. So really, I think the way to do it would be this hand jump. And I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could dino from his back to his hand. I think that would be a hard jump to make in real life. In video games, it's so easy, but in real life, that would be an exceptionally difficult jump to make. And then if we're talking about him bringing his hand around and twisting it a bunch, that would leave me hanging at multiple points because I wouldn't always be able to have that pressure of my feet against it, just because of gravity. So I think that there's such a huge chance that I'd slip off. So ultimately, this is one I cannot climb. Also, I think you have to kind of like shoot him with the arrow when you're up here, and that I just wouldn't be able to make that shot with the pressure of being on a hand up in the sky. It just wouldn't happen. This would be too hard. So this is another failure. Which, yeah, I think that puts it at, I could climb 12 of them. I could climb 12 Colossi, right? I said I'd fail on the first bird. I'd fail on the water guy. I'd fail on the sand guy. And I fail on this one. So I could climb 75% of the Colossi in Shadow of the Colossus, I think. Anyway, let me know how many you think you could climb. And have a good day. Bye.